Okay, let's get started here with the Nantucket Conservation Commission meeting for January, 18th?
Yes.
2017. We'll start here with the public meeting. Any public comment? First of all, meeting is being filmed and recorded, so if anybody is doing the same, please let us know, and if you could silence your phones, that would be greatly appreciated. Okay. So starting with the public meeting, public comment. Any items not being heard tonight, if anyone wants to make comment on?
I'll just say it quickly since I've said it before. If anyone's interested in the genetically modified mouse presentation that's going on downstairs, I have been told they are filming it and it will be available on demand, hopefully tomorrow morning, or you can watch it live on your phone outside now.
Creepy stuff.
And Roberto said if you had any questions, if you're up here, feel free to email it to him, and he would try to pass those along if people wanted to get questions in.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, let's move on to the public hearing. Notices of intent. We have a bunch of continuances here. The first two are Zarella, 125 Walnut Road and 129 Walnut Road are both continued till March 1st. And then we have Nantucket Island Land Bank, 17 Commercial Wharf, and Unnumbered Lots, New Whale Street, is continued till February 15th. Sunset House LLC, 15 Hallowell Lane, is continued till February 1st, as is Fargo Way Realty Trust and Wawinit Realty Trust, 10 Fargo Way. So if anybody's here for that and would like to make a comment, you can't come back next those dates. Okay, seeing not, we'll start with A&B Realty Trust, 53 and 55 Baxter Road.
Sorry, Arthur.
For the applicant, Art Gasparo and Alpha Reed, we're before you tonight with a notice of intent for two properties located on the eastern side of Baxter Road. The work is proposed within the 100-foot buffer zone to the coastal bank. The coastal bank is vegetated and stable in this area. The work entirely revolves around proposed landscape activities. There's an open order of conditions on these two properties for the relocation of the structures, and that work is currently ongoing. The work that's proposed tonight includes really a comprehensive overall landscape plan, which is shown on the two sheets that have been provided by the landscape architects detailing plant list and all of the proposed plants within the buffer zone. And then the other portion of the work is a proposed relocation portion of the walking path known as the Bluff Walk. And so what we're proposing to do in two areas, well, really along the length of the property, is one in the southernmost end. The pathway is immediately adjacent to the top of the bank, and so we're proposing a small section of split rail fence and then to move that path back 8 feet or so away from the edge, so it's not on the very, very edge of the property, and then of the ridge of the bank. And then the other portion of the path, right now the path just sort of dumps into the lawn area, and it's not in a defined area. So what we've proposed to do is to just cut a walking trail that would go along the 25-foot buffer zone and then tie back into the path on the southern end. We believe this would really improve the wetland scenic views, and people that walk this will be able to actually see down further onto the beach, which you can't do from up in this lawn. And it also then would provide a defined path instead of just being sort of out into the lawn area. And again, it would just match like the rest of the walking path. It would just be essentially a grass path. And they did, we talked about whether it could go closer. To the north and the south, it's much closer than 25 feet in most locations. but trying to also be sensitive to your regulations, we thought that we would sort of split that difference and go right along the 25. And again, the bank is it's to the south of the whole other project, and it's where there is actually a small bit of a dune at the very bottom of the bank. And that's really the extent of the project. We'd be happy to try to address questions or concerns that you might have.
Are you going to have any fencing or kind of demarcation on the path then, or a post and rope?
No, the only fencing would be 2 sections of split rail where that path, to replace the path that's right at the top of the bank. So people don't just come off the path and go over to the bank right at that spot, because right now the path is right there on the edge. So that would be the only fencing, would be those two small sections, and then I think they've got about 4 or 5 plants that they would put in front of that split rail fence, and the rest of it, the vegetation would serve as the path delineator.
So what's the closest the path is going to get to the bluff now?
Well, right now it's at essentially 0 or 1, and we're going to move away in this section.
Right, in
So,
the front.
in this section down here, excuse me, in this section here, you can see the existing path is
Right.
dashed in gray, and then they're gonna move it out to here. So it gets it gets further away in here.
Right.
And then up in here, where it's just in the lawn, it's gonna go essentially from that, say, 8 feet away to transition out to the 25, and then follow the 25 up to here to meet the existing path.
Okay.
And we don't believe there'd be any, negative impacts on the interests protected by the commission, pedestrian use only, grass walking path.
What are they gonna do in here, Art, just between the opening here and the opening here? I mean, this has been the path of, has this been pretty much where it's gone through before?
Yeah, exactly. I brought an aerial that might help. I'll leave it for you. This is just the GIS. It's a little dark. But this is, if I'll step back, this is locus here. And so the path just dumps and it's just into the open lawn.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So are they gonna direct people here, or will it be obvious?
I think it'll be
fence or
obvious
planting
enough,
or
right,
anything?
is the intention. There's one planting bed that exists right here. And then we would just, so I guess there still would be a section that was
Right,
open to the lawn area, if you would.
obvious enough.
What is the easement allowed for this footpath?
I'm sorry, what do you
What is
mean?
the easement, so, like, it's further into this property now, what is the easement allowed? Because I'm assuming there's an actual easement there to allow the public to walk through the front of the property.
There is reference. The terms of it are not at all clear, as they usually aren't on these things. But there's a location shown on the land court plan of the property as being location of the path. And that's back here. We're not going to change that. We're simply constructing this within the property. The easement doesn't change. Technically, if there were erosion in the future, it would be able to fall back to the
Okay, that's what I'm getting at essentially.
We're not trying to change the easement at all.
Okay, so even by moving this closer, if it needed to move back
Yeah,
legally, that would,
it can move back as far as
where it
where
currently
it's
is.
shown, which is pretty much right straight across here.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that's,
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, I think right now it's not really a
Yeah.
path through the yard, it's just sort of like free-for-all.
we need to
Yeah.
make sure the old one goes in the
Oh, yeah.
road, because if there's erosion,
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I can say from our work on the other project to the north, there's always been talk of how the bluff walk path easements shift to some degree with the top of the bank. But I believe there's kind of a termination point where I would say run into physical buildings and things. Problems, but it moves, but it's a really old easement and it's really unclear. You think we'll have something
in
like that?
some cases, it's not really defined at all. In other cases, like this, it's actually shown, in a physical hard location on a land court plan tied into the survey. But on the others, it presumably does float. Now, what happens when you deal with it floating in one case and not floating in next property is an interesting question for another day.
That seems like it's a better question for the land court.
Exactly.
For you.
Other questions? Okay. Questions from the public? No? Seeing not?
I believe we have everything we need to close, right?
We do.
Okay. We have everything we need to close?
Yes.
Jeff? Okay. I'll make a motion.
Close.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Very much.
Who is this landscape architect?
Michael Van,
Volkenberg? Is he, oh, is he the guy that's working on that, park downtown?
don't know.
Yes,
Yeah,
the one that's by the Easy Street.
yeah. Heard good things.
He's also the architect, if you remember, that did that project on Lincoln Circle that involved that big, like, 10,000-pound boulder that we permitted at one point. Up on
We permitted a rock. Another.
The aerial.
Okay, we're now Denise S. Nessie, 20 Wall Street.
Right.
Again, for the applicant, our Gasparo, I also have should be 11 by 17s.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So the only other thing I left in the folder.
Yeah, they're even clear, really, the lot's so small that it's clear on 8.5 by 11, but this is just the same plan, on 12 by 17 to scale. For the record, Gasparo, I'm before you tonight, with a notice of intent for work, down in Brant Point within land subject to coastal storm flowage. We're not in the buffer zones, of any other resource area, so it's strictly the flood zone, and you've got an existing residential use property, and the proposal before you is to remove the existing structure and build a new single-family dwelling that is compliant with the flood zone requirements in terms of the foundation and elevating the first floor. The current house doesn't meet the flood zone, and then we're proposing to shift the driveway, so we would remove an existing driveway and construct a new gravel driveway, or gravel or shell. It won't be asphalt, and essentially there's lawn around the house right now, and we would have the lawn around there at the end as well. It's not all that big of a lot, and where we've shown existing grades on the property, spot elevations, and I've included a note that the proposal is to maintain the existing grades, and no fill is to be used, which I believe, therefore, the project meets your performance standards and protected interests, and I'd be happy to address questions or concerns that you might have.
Art, what's the existing structure? Does that have a foundation now?
Yeah, it's on a foundation. I think it might be block, but
The new, I guess what I'm getting at is, the new structure looks like it's quite a bit bigger than the existing one, but if it's gonna be flood zone compliant, I would assume that will improve the water retention on the lot.
yeah, well, it would. I don't know if I would. I suppose theoretically it would improve it, because if the water right now can't get under that existing structure, but it's going to be able to get under the new structure, then yeah, I could see it. It's going to be, what I expect will be used are the engineered smart vents, and they originally, this was another one that had thought maybe they could do one of these solid fill foundations that had some of them had happened, and I sort of let them know that really the two rules on these are no fill, and that the water has to flow underneath the structures. And so the architects are well aware and have designed. You can see that we've got additional steps going up into the structure in the higher position. And then we've proposed HVAC units, which would be on elevated platforms, also above the flood zone.
I know you said you're not going to change the grade, but it could be just a typo.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're at 3.3, and she's saying she's at 5.2.
Yeah, that can't be, my plan is gonna
Yeah, I'm
hold,
just
and
making sure that.
I let them know. Well, you know what I think part of that is, actually, I could tell you, is that's a change in datum. The
Okay.
plans they were working on before were in 34 half tide level, and then the work I did is in nav 88, and so that's a piece of it as well. The plant, when they first started, they were using a plan that I think the surface elevations on that plan may have been closer to 5, but I'd say that when you receive a request for a certificate of compliance, it's going to need to be in the same datum as the approved plan. And I show a benchmark on the catch basin right out front, which isn't going to be impacted by construction. So you've got a perfect point of reference to, you know, put the same spot elevations back on in that datum.
Thanks.
Yeah, just so, when we usually get these in for certs, that's one of the things we look for is to make sure that there's not a funny datum shift or something, so someone can sneak a little
Yeah,
extra
just-
fill
we
in
got
or do
two
something
numbers,
that
I just
we try to
go
match
with
up.
one.
I can get as lazy as just sometimes putting the plan on top of the old plan and seeing if the spots are even close.
What are you gonna do with roof runoff?
We don't have any particular, you know, plan. It would just be, I don't even know if they're gonna definitely have gutters or not. And if they did, I would just be assumed downspouts to the corners of the houses. You know, I know you've had some other applications. You know, it's pretty difficult to put subsurface drainage down in
Yeah.
this area that then floods when you need it the most.
Yeah.
It's gonna be saturated.
Maybe some
You know,
French
it's always an
drains,
option. You could do a very shallow infiltrated chamber of, you know, I think marginal effectiveness, but, you know.
Yeah,
So-
maybe even a French drain or something. Something simple, maybe.
Sure, I mean, if that was a condition, we would, you know, we could go to, you know, shallow infiltrators with overflows, really, because, you know, or
Shallow,
basically
yeah.
what I would say, you would, you know, maybe at the downspout, you have like a Y, the whole
Yeah, I
thing
wonder
backs
what's
up.
more- You know, I wonder what's more effective in reality.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Laying off the
Infiltrators
roof,
don't have a lot
You know, no gutters, kind of spreading out on in a
Yeah.
thin sheet, or, you know, trying to put it, like you say, trying
That's a
to put
good
an
point.
infiltrator into a groundwater situation.
Yeah, where you're down, what's groundwater there, probably about a foot? or
2 feet, you know,
I
would
would
be.
think an infiltrator would be worth it.
It would be so shallow that, you know, I just don't know, and once you're already in the flood zone, if you don't have, a particular, you know, problem, I guess I would say, other than the whole thing, you know, when the whole area is flooded. But if it was something that, you know, the commission felt strongly about, I don't particularly see a huge benefit to protected interests in doing that, but.
It's more like the neighbors over here.
Well, I just
Well,
wondered.
that's a
Appreciate it.
different, you know,
Yeah.
that falls under the sort of, you know, you can't flood your neighbor,
Yeah.
you know, kind of a thing. And, you know, while the house is, it looks a bit bigger, but it's shaped differently. It's not like going from some vacant wooded lot to now a roof that's what's already there, really, you know. Where you might have some additional roof area, it's not a change in use.
Yeah, well, that was my concern because of the size increase, and it's such a small lot in the neighbors. But the commission doesn't feel that's fine.
Yeah,
I like your thinking though about no
Yeah, I
gutters.
just don't know
Actually,
how effective it's gonna be.
does make sense.
Well, keep in mind that when we condition these structures, we're conditioning against the performance standards for a flood zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever your conditioning needs to somehow maintain or enhance the land's ability to hold floodwaters.
Right.
Yeah,
And if
no-
we're in the buffer zone from a wetland where you have some of the other interests,
That's different.
it behaves a little differently. But in this case, you're trying to protect that specific resource area.
Yeah, that's where I was going with my original question. I think it's probably gonna be an improvement.
I would think so. Minimal gutters. I mean, obviously, over front doors. And,
Yeah, I just don't know what their design
Yeah.
plan is. I never usually, you know, at that point, I don't know whether they want them, don't want them,
Right.
HDC, you know. And in a case where there were the other interests, where maybe you then come back and tell them you have to have them, that's almost a different story. Right? I just don't know that it would, in this particular situation. residential redevelopment make really, in a flood zone, a particular difference.
Other questions? Comments from the public? Questions? No? Seeing none. Jeff, do we have everything to close on this?
Yes, sir.
Would you like to close, Art?
I would like to close the hearing, please.
Do we have a motion?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Pocomo Point Realty Trust, 90 Pocomo Road.
He's out of there.
Thank you. For the record, Paul Santos with Nantucket Surveyors representing the applicant and property owner, Pocomo Point Realty Trust. This application is for the property located at 90 Pocomo Road, which many of you may know was formerly the Gamble residence, which is out at the very end of Pocomo, on Pocomo Point. This property sold 2-3 years ago, and the current owner has maintained the existing structures on the property and is now looking to move forward with a different use and program for the site itself. So the application that you have before you here is simply an application for the existing either demolition or moving off of the existing structures on the site. That is the main structure itself, which is about approximately 4,800 square foot footprint building, which sits right up on top of the site itself. Approximately 809 square foot garage, and then there's also an existing older septic system, leach pit septic system on the site itself. The reason we're before you now for just the demolition component of it is we're trying to get the permit from the building department for just the demo at this point. And rather than come forward with the complete proposal, we're looking to get the demo permit issued at the building department and then move forward with our plans. We will be back before you with a smaller structure, smaller garage, reconfigured septic and driveway, all which will occur outside of the 25 and the 50-foot setback. So we'll be coming in with an application waiver-free once this building is either moved off the site or it's demoed. The resource area that we're talking about is a coastal bank. The structure is essentially located within 25 feet of the top of the coastal bank. You can see here by the tighter contour lines with the darker shading on the plan. The 25-foot setback comes up to about the back of the existing dwelling, the 50, and then you have the 100-foot setback. The septic system and the garage are completely outside of the 100, and technically we could do those removals without any permit from the board, but we've asked for everything as part of this application. The work itself, again, just to walk through, we'll be proposing not really a silt fence is really not going to do much good on the top here, but either a silt fence or construction fence demarcation along the top of the developed area of the site, the removal or raising of the main structure, the garage, and then the septic system. We unfortunately do not have our DEP file number at this point, as DEP is in Boston, has not either received the check or has misplaced the check, so we are going to have to continue and come back at the next meeting. But we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. There is a report in your file from Laurentide Environmental with regard to the proposal. I will say the intent of the application right now is to simply get these structures off the site, grade and stabilize it in such a manner that we're ready to accept the proposal for the new dwelling and the other structure. I do have a preliminary plan which is currently at the planning board now with regard to the second dwelling application, and if I could just show you, this is the top of the bank. Approximately in excess of 75 feet away would be a smaller dwelling, parking area, and a garage, and a pool. Again, all would be outside of the 50-foot setback. So it's a smaller program, but the initial goal here is to simply get the demo permit from the building department, and to do that, we need an order of conditions to do that. There is currently an order of conditions for the property for the sand drift fencing. If you remember, the current owner, upon acquiring the property, did install sand drift fencing, and they also do have a separate lot which abuts 90. This is 88 Kokomo Road. That's a standalone parcel that currently is being marketed. We do have a set of stairs. If you remember on that one, we have sand drift fencing, and we also had a set of stairs approved on that lot that have yet to be built. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have with regard to the application.
What are you going to revegetate the disturbed areas with?
Right now, we'll probably just loam and seed. It's just a temporary measure. The next application will have a complete planting plan and landscape plan with regard to what we plan to do up on the top, because now we're going to have 75 feet from the top of that bank to the site. So we'll have a full landscape plan. Under this application, it's simply more so to get these buildings off the site. And quite honestly, whatever minimal disturbance they can do just to get the foundation out of there and the building out of there is all we plan to do right now. The general grading of the site is essentially away from the top of the bank towards, into the north, if you will, and away from the site.
I don't know if you can answer this, Paul, but is the intent really to demo this thing rather than try to move it? I can imagine moving.
There's only one. There is an option right now that's being explored on a site which may have come before you fairly recently. I think over on Kokomo Road,
Yeah.
that there was some talk about moving it over to that area there. Where that has gone, I don't know.
So I guess my question on that is, could you really move this house without getting into this 25-foot no disturb pretty intensely?
Well, I think right now we're already developed in the 25-foot no disturb. The only area that we have, if you look where the 25 is, actually probably half of it, because the back side of that, there's that stone walk. I mean, when you really look at it,
Yeah.
From the stone walk to the top of the bank is right now vegetated, but from that area in is essentially completely developed.
So right here.
Yeah. In this area, the 25 essentially comes up to the stone walk.
Gotcha.
It's
So that's in a developed area. Still, though, I think it would be a destabilization of the top of that bank if you were trying to.
Yeah, what I will do, I was looking at it, and based on some of Bruce's comments, I'm assuming Toscana's probably going to be the one taking the project on. I'll talk to Carl about whether he feels, based on what they're doing here, the distance that he has here, whether any sheet piling may be necessary on the backside, not more so from a stabilization point on the backside, if he feels that's warranted, or what their plan is to do that, because it does have a full foundation. It's actually not a full foundation. It's
half is full and half.
Yeah, the foundation, when you come in this side, you kind of, it's like a crawl and then a full, so.
But I wouldn't think this part has the full.
Yeah, that has part has the
And
full,
then this is all crawl.
over here. That's right.
Fill that foundation hole then and level it all out?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think they could do a lot of it if just talk to Carl about coming in from the,
Yeah, from the backside.
the east side.
You can leave the
I mean, if they do move it, obviously it's going to have to go up. I mean, it's an enormous structure.
Yeah.
I think it's somehow given the fact that there's going to be 2 weeks, that if they provided some sort of protocol for moving the structure, they could provide that in time for the
Yeah.
next hearing.
I would like more information on the landscape or stabilization plan for this half. I know you just want to loam and seed it, but you're removing the house now and it's not going to be buildable for the next project. So I think the faster you get the stabilization plan in place, the better.
All right.
My other question, what is the erosion rate happening here?
It's actually not that significant. It's probably less than, I think, if I'm going by memory here, I think it's less than 2 or 3 feet. I mean, it's a lower erosion rate, believe it or not. It's more so, this bank, you see more from the top to the bottom.
Right.
It's more of a heavy rain event and so forth. It's a degrading slope from that. It's not, you're not losing it from the toe. Although they do have the sand drift fencing in place, and it's a permanent sand drift fencing. But because of where you are in the harbor, it's not a significant with regard to, like you're seeing in Nantucket or you're seeing in other areas. And it's more so you're losing top of the bank. The top of the slope actually has not changed dramatically, I mean, since the time that we were initially in there. And I think the house was originally built mid-'80s, and there really hasn't been a significant change in the top of that bank, since the time. They built the house pretty close to the top of when they built it. So,
Yeah, when we looked at those sand fencing ones, the erosion rate we were looking at for kind of that 10-year erosion rate was, depending on where you were on that section, was about 1.5 foot to
Yeah.
2.5 feet per year. That's an average, so.
Yeah.
that's-
yeah, oddly enough, it's it's de minimis with regard to that 20 times the erosion and so forth. It's not that type of, whereas the setback would then be 100 feet essentially,
Right.
once you reach that 5 foot, 5 foot per year criteria.
I know it's a separate lot, but you have a notation over next door of the limit of clearing.
Yeah, we came in and actually
Yeah.
got a notice of intent
Okay.
to clear that area, to put up a view stand. So
Okay.
right now, we had a permit to clear that area, put the stand up, and then we permitted the stairway
Yeah, I remember
and the
that.
sand drift fencing.
Okay.
And that's an active order. The stairway has not put in, but we did
Okay.
clear the driveway and put the view stand up, and that property is currently on the market.
Okay. Checking.
And actually, this property has been appended to a larger piece, which is actually fronts on Pocomo Road, which is now one large parcel. And then it's the owner that bought this is the same one that bought it
Right.
off of Gamble, and he's now just, like I said, they've occupied it for 2 or 3 summers now, and they're looking now to kind of downsize and still utilize the property.
Thank God, good direction. Other questions? Questions from the public? Okay, seeing not, would you like to request a continuance for another
Yes.
2 weeks?
Please.
Okay. Leonard Barbary, 48 West Mycomet Road.
Mr. Chairman, I am going to recuse myself from this. Do you guys have a?
You got 4 of us.
I need to recuse myself as well.
Do you really?
This one's not going forward,
I was about to say, we only got,
This one has natural heritage.
but Joe has to recuse himself.
we only
as
have
well.
3 people.
We only have 3. Go downstairs and get Ian.
We'll get Ian.
Yeah, my last.
What's your issue
I used to work with him.
with Lee?
Yeah,
Okay, but you're not on this
closely.
project?
Not on this project, but I worked very closely with him.
I mean, I think you could, if you just have a former.
Financial.
It's up to you. I mean, if you want to recuse, I mean, we're going to have to
Further
continue this ultimately anyways.
Well, I mean, Water Challenge Pole is already doing design work on this.
What I was going to say, within the last year you worked with?
No, it's 2, 3 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah. I mean, I think we'd be comfortable with it. I mean, it's up to you, obviously, but
And I just felt I was a little close to him, so I spent a year and a half working with him, so I'd rather not.
okay.
Yeah. Well, then, if you want, we can continue. Because Ben is recusing himself too.
Do we know how long that meeting's going downstairs? Maybe put us at the end of the agenda, and if Ian can maybe come up at the end, is that be something that we could,
We could text him.
Yeah, why don't,
We'll just,
We'll
we'll
delay
move
it.
us on the agenda and
Okay,
let's see what
let's see
happens.
if we can push that along.
There's a tight timeline here, so I'd rather see if we can wait till the end.
Okay.
we'll take it.
Okay, so we'll hold off on Barbary and go on, move forward to 34 Shakamo LLC, 34 Shakamo Road.
Hello, Don Bracken, Bracken Engineering for the applicant. This property currently has an order of conditions that's still in effect. For proposed work on the east side of the house that consisted of a garage and a swimming pool on the south side of the house. So all the resource areas from that are still valid. Those are the resource areas we're showing on this plan. The project for this notice of intent is just a septic system upgrade. The property is in the process of being transferred, and as I'm sure you know, the Board of Health now requires at any transfer, standard septic systems be replaced with IA systems. So there are 2 existing tanks that will be removed and 2 IA septic tanks installed. Also, to accommodate future bedrooms, the septic system is being increased in size from 4 bedrooms to 8 bedrooms. So I've highlighted on this plan where the tanks are going to go. It's a little congested because we have to show both the primary area and reserve area for the leaching chambers. The tanks will be just inside the 100-foot buffer, probably roughly 85 to 90 feet away. The soil absorption system or the leaching chambers all will be outside the 100-foot buffer. The existing order of conditions already has an approved access path somewhere between the 25-foot and the 50-foot buffer. To access the installation, if you follow the plan, you can see there's a 5 to 6 foot wide footpath. That will be widened to about 8 to 10 feet to get the machinery up there to install the system. It's going right over where the existing system is right now. The existing system consists of leaching trenches that are spread further apart, so they take up a larger area. The type of system that we've designed is a bed configuration. With these chambers, we have some flexibility on the layout, so we're able to condense that area. And the trenches are actually closer to the coastal bank. They're within existing, there are 2 existing trenches that are already within the 100-foot buffer. They were installed based on an old wetland line when the house was originally constructed. So we think overall it's an improvement. The lot area is large enough to, on Title V and the local regulations, to accommodate 33 bedrooms. And this design is for 8.
I guess I'm asking the obvious, like, are they assuming to get an increase, or are they just doing that per design?
I think they're doing it because they have to replace the tanks anyway, so it's all about the bedrooms, so they wanted to be able to increase it, as much as they could for future use.
Where is the footpath that's going to be widened?
It goes right through here.
So off the side of the driveway almost?
The previous plan has a swimming pool right here and an access path coming up around that. We're not going to have to go, depending on how they phase the project. There's a possibility they could do this when they do the pool under the, so there's going to be 2 orders of conditions. But if they decide to do this before the pool, then they won't have to go as close as what's already approved. They can stay within that path and just widen what's already there.
Any questions? Okay. Questions from the public? Okay. Seeing none. Jeff, we're ready to close on this one?
Yes.
Everything we need? Are you ready to close? Okay. Is there a motion?
Move to close.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a tight spot. I always question like expansion areas and stuff.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal. Okay, oh no, we did that, sorry. Goodrich, Nantucket, 2, LLC, 36 Shakama Road. Pretty much the same.
John Bracken Engineering for the applicant. Pretty much the same situation. Property is being transferred. Existing tanks, in this case there are 3 existing tanks between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer. When we take out the 3, we only need 2 to replace it. Very similar, we're putting the proposed soil absorption system in the same area as the existing, working within an existing cleared area. This one is going from 8 bedrooms up to 12 bedrooms. There's no existing order of conditions for this property, so the wetland delineation was recently done by Brian Madden of LEC, which we've located. We've also delineated a coastal bank on the west side adjacent to that wetland. Coastal bank is the governing setback for the buffer zones. This one has easy access right off the existing driveway from the road. Same thing as the Septic IA system.
Questions? Questions from the public? Okay, seeing that, we have everything we need to close?
We do.
Okay, ready to close?
We're ready to close?
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
We'll get you next time.
When should we,
Let's just
did
keep,
some, yeah, I mean,
keep going, and I might try to go down this.
I think we didn't have any.
Yeah, I think Steve is down here right now.
Oh, good, perfect.
I texted
The intercom system, maybe, try that one. Oh, good. Okay, so going into the public meeting. Oh, is it coming up?
He's coming up right now?
Just keep going.
Okay, okay.
Minor mods. We'll get
Minor
there.
mods. Zachary got 13 Columbus Ave.
For the applicant, Art Gasparo. I think this hopefully will be fairly straightforward. There's an open order of conditions for work that's happening on this property, and what I have shown in red is the wetland boundary, the 50-foot setback, and then a proposed addition to a shed. And that's the extent of the proposed minor modification, is to construct this addition onto a shed. And this shed was relocated from over here, in case you maybe remember it. And this is the place that had the fire pit, and the fire pit has been removed.
Questions?
No, sir.
Questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, I recommend this get approved as a minor modification.
Okay.
Move to approve the minor modification.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. Certificates of compliance. Cressman, on Wawinet Road. I didn't have anything.
What's that?
I didn't have anything in my.
Oh, I'll get it out for you.
Cressman.
The Crestman
I
plan
didn't
is for
122? Oh, I just have a
It
labor.
was for the,
Yeah.
the construction of a single-family home
Oh, okay, I couldn't figure out
up
what.
there. Did it come in?
Yeah, I did. I just was looking at the paperwork. I was like, what is it? Or-
So it was for the construction
Full house,
of
okay.
the single-family home, and it's built in the correct location. Compliance with the original plan, so I would recommend that it could get closed out.
Make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Sir.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Good. Orders of conditions. AB Real, no, we didn't do that, oh, yeah. AB Realty Trust. 5355 Baxter Road.
That was the block path.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess just watching the irrigation on the new landscaping, given its proximity to the top of the bluff.
Does it, does that extend past any of the landscaping on there? I'm not, yeah, that one little bit.
Yeah.
Could have a no irrigation inside the 25 or something like our whatever usual is,
Yeah.
you know, with the ground sensors and all that jazz.
So addition of 21, no irrigation inside 25. Yeah.
So 21 feet no irrigation inside the 20 feet?
Sure. Okay. Make a motion with the inclusion of 21, no irrigation inside 25?
Motion to approve with the addition of 21.
Second.
No irrigation.
We have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? That one passes unanimously. Nice. Okay. Denise S. Nessie, 20 Wall Street.
This was that project that was the reconstruction within the flood zone.
Yeah.
When we conditioned, I put in that there was no fill permitted.
Dewatering, is there dewatering?
Oh, we didn't ask that.
Didn't they say if they dewatered, they would route it to get permission from the town to dump it into a...
Yeah, they used that temporary dewatering permit.
So, in this case, if they did decide to do, downspouts with infiltration, they'd have to come back to us.
They have to come back to them and then modify the permit.
Okay.
I would probably say, given the nature of the project, it'd probably be a minor modification,
Yeah.
unless it was something
It's a big
crazy system that they went to put in.
Water feature.
Like a big-
But if it was just downspouts with like a
Water guard.
dry well or
Yeah.
small infiltration.
Gravel.
probably a minor. I'm not sure how dry your dry well would be.
Fish pond.
In water,
A fish pond.
downspouts with koi ponds.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to throw it at you.
Pockamo Point Realty Trust, 90 Pockamo Road.
Did not close that one,
Oh, wait. Gamble there. Thank you.
or the next one.
Yep, we're waiting on that one. 34 Shakamo LLC, 34 Shakamo Road.
Septic tanks.
Yep, this is the, one of the septic upgrades.
Good board.
This had kind of our standard, provide the test results and O&M agreement for the septic system. To be honest, I think we're in store for a lot of these.
Yeah. How often do those have to be inspected yearly? The septic tank system?
The 1-year contract.
But I would say with that too, is it's the 1-year contract on the install, but the Board of Health is using a new kind of tracking software to make sure that you're maintaining your O&M agreements now. They've actually been kind of pursuing enforcement on making sure that those are up to date and maintained. We weren't doing that before, so
That's good.
starting to see a lot more
Excellent.
compliance with non-expired O&M agreements, so hopefully that continues.
Addition?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Goodrich Nantucket 2 LLC, 36 Shakamo, same deal.
Move to issue again.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, well, still waiting for Ian here. Monitoring reports. Diamond to 10 Jefferson Ave.
I think the interesting one of those two reports, I mean, the Jefferson Ave one's interesting in and of itself. 48 Shimo Pond Road is kind of the second report for the, so bad saying it this way. It's the kind of the second report on the Wilkinson array of erosion thing. So it's vegetation impregnated core logs with the soil lifts.
Yep.
This was kind of the first one that we've seen on Nantucket. So I think it's, I think it's interesting, an interesting read, and I would definitely recommend if anyone has the chance to go down and take a look at it, just to see it with your own eyes. I think
Really
it's,
did well.
It does, especially next to those stairs.
Question about one of these photos. Looks like there's a bunch of cinder blocks at the bottom of the stairs. Can we have those removed?
yes. So I talked to, actually, when Seth set that in, I talked to them about that, and I have been put to a contact of the Shimo Association who put those there to get those removed, and we've traded phone calls, but they are leaving.
You can cut that.
Yeah, I saw it when I didn't see it in the photo, but when we went out to
We have good eyes.
one of my trips out there to take a look, I definitely saw them.
Yeah, there's usually stuff at the bottom of the stairs when I come to look.
Yeah, that's about it.
That was right after a storm, too.
Interesting.
Okay. And then we have another monitoring report, 48 SPR LLC.
Oh, that's the one I was.
That's the one you were talking about. Okay, so that's just, sorry. Okay, great.
On sheet 3, though, do they clear too far in the last photo?
Which page?
Sheet 3, on the bottom, this is number 3, that report.
For the diamond report or the other one?
The same one, the Shimo. If you look at that, looking north, I would say. There's a new structure in there.
That's a separate property.
Yeah, it just looks.
The construction over there's gotten a little close. Looks like that would be your
Hey, Ian.
Ian? I love it.
So if we're good with there, we can go back to.
Okay,
the
we're
public
gonna
hearing
swing
that
back up here.
we're missing.
Excellent. Perfect timing.
I'm gonna put you to work, Ian.
Leonard Barbary, 48 West Mycoma, going back to the notice of intent here.
That is joking. So, the situation we talked about yesterday came to pass.
Murphy's Law. Of course.
Actually, got a third one here.
Down there, or they still don't? They're still doing answer questions. The good news for you is, I'm sure about 10 minutes of this.
This is just a little over.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the applicant, Leonard Barbieri, who is a contract purchaser of the subject property located at 48 West Myacomet Road. Also, Steve Cohen is here representing the applicant. This is a notice of intent for work on the subject property. As I said, the property is located on West Myacomet Road, which is in the MMD zoning district. The property itself has a frontage to the north on West Myacomet Road. The resource areas are a coastal dune, which is located along the south side of an existing dwelling. It's an existing two-story dwelling. So it's an existing developed residential lot, essentially a two-story dwelling, driveway. There is an existing well and an existing on-site septic system. The existing septic system is compliant with Title V, was recently inspected, and it is located actually outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to the coastal dune. The other resource areas on the site include a 100-year flood zone, coastal beach, and then the ocean, or land under the ocean and the Atlantic Ocean itself. The site itself is somewhat interesting in the fact that this is an area where 20, 30 years ago in the mid-'80s or so, the area experienced some erosion. Some of the dwellings in the area, in fact, this dwelling that you see located on the property now had been relocated to its current location on the site, and some of the homes to the east or west of the property actually have been relocated too. And you can kind of see it's been an area of a changing landform, if you will. This is kind of a photo of the way the property looks today. I don't know if anybody had a chance to get out there. But essentially what you have is the existing dwelling with a rising coastal dune down to the coastal beach into the Atlantic Ocean. When the homes were actually constructed or moved, it looked more like this. This was a straight, you walked out of the back of these structures and you walked straight to the beach. So the dune that is there now has actually accreted within the last 20 or 30 years. So it went from an area where there was erosion, and now it's kind of switched in the last 20 years, and now you have this landform, or that dune that you now walk up and over to get to the beach, has kind of been developed over time. So that's what we currently have today. So when the home is actually built, the dune was significantly farther away from where it is right now. And the way the dune is located now, we have a set of dune flags here, located along the backside. Which structure am I looking here? I want to look at this one here. The backside of the dune here, the 25-foot no disturb, is essentially fairly undeveloped. We do catch a portion of the existing deck area. The 50, the existing structure is within the 50, and the entire structure and a portion of the septic system, the septic tank, is within the 100-foot buffer. Put this one away because we modified that one.
So that's an old.
Yeah, that's an old
plan.
one. You have,
Okay.
you have,
That was-
you have the one with the current dune flags located on it. I'm trying
And
to
the
see
house
if this is.
out of the 50 no build, further in our plan.
Yes, correct. So the application itself is for the proposed relocation and renovation of the existing structure, including placement of a full foundation, addition of a 200-square-foot shed, septic component modification, and associated landscaping on the subject property within the setbacks to a coastal dune. The proposed work is shown on the included site plan that you have. Waivers are required for the application, but first let me just walk you through what the proposal is. So the proposal is to take the existing structure, pick it up, place it on a full foundation to the center of the lot, abandon the existing driveway, create a new smaller driveway area to the east of the lot, place a 200-square-foot shed, and then associated landscaping to go with that. The back area where the existing structure is located would be revegetated with indigenous beach grass, beach plum and grasses. The area in which the lawn would be, the driveway would be abandoned and the new lawn would be, area would be created, would be a no fertilizer seeded, drought tolerant lawn. The driveway would be a shell driveway. We would relocate the septic tank to the front of the lot outside of the 100-foot buffer zone and maintain the existing septic system. Again, the existing area where the driveway was in the front would be revegetated with indigenous plant material. And we will also, currently, the house utilizes a very small 2 or 3 foot wide footpath which comes up over the dune, but it comes off of the existing property onto the neighbor's property and comes down to the beach. Would be looking to just essentially abandon that footpath and then have it relocated to the eastern portion of the lot. This would be a simple, just a walking path from the yard area from the back of the house to the beach itself. Not proposing any type of beach stairs. It's just simply a relocation of the footpath. When we look at the area, currently we have a DEP file number. We do not have a response yet from NHESP under the MESA proposal, but when we look at the MESA data as far as what we're proposing to them, the existing area of disturbance is approximately 10,225 square feet. The proposed area of disturbance is 14,275 square feet. So there is an increase in the area of disturbance with regard to NHESP. Most of that does fall outside of your jurisdiction, outside of the 100-foot buffer, but it does require a permit or approval from them. With regard to jurisdictional areas that you control, the 0 to 25, we're removing a portion of the existing structure, or all of the existing structure. There's only a small piece of the deck that's in the 25. We'd remove the existing structure or deck within the 25 and abandon and relocate the existing footpath. The 25 to 50, relocation of the existing structure, which is the dwelling, resulting in a net benefit of 1,350 square feet of structure removal within the 50-foot no-build. and the 50 to 100 relocation of the existing structure, dwelling, in addition of a shed with associated driveway, site work, and grading. So that would all occur outside of the 50, but a portion of it would occur within the 100-foot setback. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. We are going to ask for a continuance based on the NHESP data, but be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I will say Laurentide did do a review of the site. I believe they were in agreement with the dune line as flagged. It did coincide with the dune flags that were placed recently. The property to the east is the Peacock residence. That's an existing structure that was recently torn down. That structure is being built with a new foundation, new structure, and a zoning compliant shed on this particular piece of property here. That's the Peacock residence to the east, which is 46 Maya Comet Road. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have with regard to the proposal.
Is the current dwelling, does it have a basement, or is it?
No, it does
crawl
not.
space?
It's a block foundation, shallow crawl space. It doesn't have a full foundation.
And it will have a full foundation?
Correct. We're asking for a full foundation, yes.
Okay.
Which, again, similar to what was done over here at the Peacock, but it would be a full foundation.
Love it if the whole thing could be out of the 50.
Well, that would be my question. Why can't it be out of the 50?
Quite honestly, I think it can. I left it, I put it where it was because I centered it on the lot, essentially where the client wanted it. I felt the area that we were disturbing as part of the demolition and relocation of this area was going to be disturbed either way. But based on Laurentide's report, based on some feedback with Jeff, I think we could, it's really just tweaking this area here.
The deck.
And in speaking to the applicant too, he's expressed some interest in trying to align himself with,
Yeah.
in the same line as that dwelling, and by doing that, it would
Swing that up.
take and tweak it actually
Wrong way.
this way, but we would then come
Back.
forward. So I think we can,
Is the subject in the way or not?
the septic wouldn't be in the way.
And
No.
We're good on the zoning?
Yeah, I've got a 50-foot front yard setback. I don't think it would be an issue with regard to because the shed is at the 50-foot setback now.
Okay.
I think we can do it as long as I can keep the 50-foot off the front. I think I can make it work where it's a small amount, but
You said the zone setback's 50-foot front yard setback?
50-foot front yard setback in the MMD.
Yeah, just make
Let
it.
me just.
Yeah, especially given the addition of a
Sure looks like
basement,
you'd have plenty
that
of
Yeah, it
needs
just-
a little bit the moving.
It just seems easy to do at this point.
Again, my initial thought was we were going to disturb that area anyway, so I wasn't too concerned with it. And we did have a net benefit of what we were taking out of the 50, but we're more than happy to try to see if we got a couple of weeks here, we can maybe tweak it.
I'd say it was a net benefit if there wasn't a basement being added, but you're going down.
Yeah, so we got plenty, the 50-foot setback, we just have to, and the 50-foot is tailing away. So I'm sure we can make it work. And then we can align too with what the applicant was looking to do maybe on that structure afterwards. Once we started laying in all the stuff, he started looking again at what he potentially could do there. Wouldn't affect the septic, so, and the well is located in this area, and I believe the intention is to leave the well in its current spot. I mean, at the end of the day, the incomplete program, the dwelling would be relocated onto a foundation incorporating a full basement. We would be adding a geothermal well system out to the site. Obviously, AC units would be added that are not out there now. 200 square foot shed to be added, driveway to be relocated, septic tank to be relocated, and then the footpath to be relocated.
And this is the current footpath right here.
That's the current footpath right there. And what happens is it comes on to the abutting property. There's actually a clothesline and decking. Again, the owners have all been out there for some time. That's on this property also. That way we'd be getting off the property line. We'd actually be, with this configuration, would be zoning compliant with regard to our side yard setbacks from the MMD.
So are you proposing to actually pull up beach grass to?
Quite honestly, I think once they
Soft,
delineate an area to just keep on walking on, once they just start walking
Right.
on it, will be, that's how little that other path is. It's
Right.
not, there's no need to go in and do anything other than just walk. It's the area, that's an area where it's the lowest part of the dune. There's kind of a natural area to walk out to the beach, and that's all we'd really be looking to do.
Is the heritage concern shorebirds out there, or is there terrestrial stuff too?
I don't know what they're concerned. We haven't got any feedback from them. I mean, it's more of, I don't think it's plants, it's more a habitat in this particular.
My guess is it's probably plovers in terms of-
Probably
Yeah.
plovers, yeah.
Yeah.
So there'll probably be a 10-year restriction on work down there then.
The planning board MMD permit has a time of year restriction as well.
Is
Hopefully
this
it's the same, huh?
gonna be like all
The summer.
patio
Summer, yeah.
around this fire
No,
pit?
no, I don't, I think the intent was to just have the area around, there's to be like a dry laid stone around the fire pit, and then a small section of dry laid stone from the driveway in. So, I think the majority of this area was to be the, you know, the lawn area.
Well, did Peacock get a nitpick on it?
They must have, again, it's not public information, so I didn't look at their file, but they went through this process, so they must have
I'm
had.
pretty sure theirs was just
Yeah.
the normal
Yeah.
time of year restriction for shorebirds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Other questions? Questions from the public? Okay, seeing now, you want to continue, request continuance for 2 weeks?
yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Continue for 2 weeks. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ian.
We're down to other business.
We're way down to other business now. Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, approval of minutes. Unless anyone has any comments on the minutes, I'll approve by unanimous consent. Good. Enforcement actions?
What's that?
Any enforcements?
I was hoping he'd be back, but Mr. Bender isn't back yet.
Oh.
I just had an update on the not enforcement, but the Chapter 91 enforcement on the A&P parking lot. The
Oh,
letter
yeah,
we
yeah.
sent
I was
about
thinking
the
of that
Chapter
one. Yep,
91
yep, yep.
compliance.
Yep.
I spoke with the new property manager for NIR Retail about that. He just started with them, I guess, in late November, early December. And he is getting up to speed on that. He assures me they are in the process of booking a machine to come over, clean out all of those catch basins. I'll notify me when that gets here sometime. He said hopefully by the end of the month. And when those get cleaned out, he said he would be replacing all of the absorbent pillows just to start fresh, and that those will go in, and he asked if I could be present for those going in, so I could verify that they went in, and then he said he's happy to provide those, reports every 2 months that they're checking on those to be sure that they're in compliance. And he said he's more than happy to comply with whatever permit requirements are there, and he was actually kind of grateful that I sent those to him because he wasn't aware of that he was going to have to be doing those. And he said, having just started, he found it extremely helpful to know
Yeah.
what he has to be doing there.
Surprise.
So, he apologized for not having more information, but he was trying to get it. He just wanted to respond to that. The other enforcement that came up today, we had an update on our enforcement on Baxter Road for the unpermitted shed. They've located that and verified that it was in the setback, and right now they are trying to decide if they're going to ask to permit it in compliance somewhere else on the lot, or if they're just going to end up removing it or demoing it or what they're doing. But they just got the plans in their hand, so they've asked if they can hopefully come back at the next meeting to present that information and what their plan of action is going to be, whether it's to demolish it there and remove it and verify its removal, or ask for a permit, to just move it to the front of the lot for now and then permit it in a final compliant location when it's all said and done. So
Perfect.
I said that seemed fine, as long as we're making progress toward it going away. That was, or being in compliance, that was fine by me. But other than that, everyone else is either in plan development phase or putting together notices of intent. So that's good.
Great.
But other than that, I don't have any other enforcements.
Okay. Reports, CPC?
No, gearing up for town meeting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Nothing from the MPEDC, mosquitoes, nothing.
Andy?
Yes, sir.
Before we move on, There's a new committee from the Biodiversity Initiative that's gonna deal with aquatic invasive species. So that would include, the harbors, near shore, ponds, and we're really just getting organized. But Jeff's got a couple of staff members, his science team is on the committee, and several other scientists from around the island. But I'm attending, not that I know anything about them, but mainly just so that somebody from this group is attending.
Excellent. Add that onto the list. Aquatic and-
Well, it's not an official
Yeah.
government committee, we're just
Yeah.
one of the public things.
That's okay. Okay. I'll put that on sort of the,
I deal with both plants and animals, since a lot of our aquatic invasives
our critters.
are animals.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I'll talk about
What
that
you do
as much.
about them, I haven't got a clue. I don't know.
Yeah, perfect. We got Mr. Bender. Can we stick you into
Yes.
Steve? Would you like, Steve, timing is perfect.
So I was just telling these guys, Steve, and you can come forward because I know you have some things to add. Where we are with the Chapter 91 enforcement issue with the A&P parking lot, and I just explained. Their property manager has been in contact with us in the last couple days about them bringing a pump truck onto the island, totally cleaning out all of those catch basins, and then he asked if I would be present for them reinstalling any absorbent pillows to be present for that, and then their new property manager has assured me that if we would like an update every 2 months, that he'd be happy to provide that. It's kind of the gist of the summary of where we are. So I feel like once that gets scheduled and the truck's able to come over, it's one of the shortcomings of being over here is we don't really have the best clean out facilities for catch basins at this point. You have to bring it from off island and get it scheduled over. That site will hopefully be in compliance by the end of January, and then hopefully in March then we'll know if those pillows need to be replaced or not, and we can kind of move forward from there. So, and again, he was grateful that we let him know that that was a requirement of their permit because he was new. So that's good. But I knew you had some things you wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think this is a brilliant outcome. I've been after this since the first Chapter 91 amnesty license was written in 1995 with this edition number 10. And nothing has been done all this time. I've gone through town councils over and over and over again over the years, and their reply is always that Winthrop says that they're in litigation about the property with Nantucket Resorts and so forth, and they can't do anything. And so I congratulate you people getting to move. Going to the boat basin, I did a careful reading of their 2009 Chapter 91 amnesty license to find a reason for enforcement, because there is a myth going around in the Nantucket government, which I've been exposed to, that in fact the boats themselves are responsible for taking care of their effluent, and the boat basin is not responsible. Of course, that's the farthest thing from the truth, and I will just read you this condition number 7. Here it is. Standard Waterways License Conditions. Number 7. This waterways license is granted subject to all applicable federal, state, county, and municipal laws, ordinance, and regulations, including but not limited to a valid final order of conditions issued pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act, etc. So the boat basin is essentially operating under the umbrella of a Chapter 91 amnesty license from the DEP of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and therefore they must obey all federal, state, local laws. Local laws says regulations. There's Regulation 32O, which you've probably read, which is a health department law, which has a $200 fine for every boat that dumps, which is the responsibility of the boat basin, and there's 137, which is a bylaw of the town of Nantucket, which also prevents the dumping of any
Discharge.
gray water, black water, so et cetera, with also a $200. So the boat basin is clearly not obeying the town's regulations or bylaws. And as I look farther into this, in fact, since the last time I talked to you, I talked to some people who work down at the boat basin, and they think seriously that they are not even addressing the black water problem. I hadn't brought that up, but I'm hearing about it. They say they have such minimal facilities for pumping, there's no way they could approach it for 200 some odd boats. So I hope, I'm really enthusiastic about you guys enforcing this stuff, because it's very clear that, it's just been mythology now for 25 years, that everything's fine. The boat basin, the Nantucket Island Resort executives have been lying to us for 25 years. They say everything's fine, we pump everything. Well, we found out in the last 2 years that the boats say they aren't pumped at all, which I brought you a month or so ago. So I thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve, for bringing that up with us.
It was
Appreciate it.
a real interesting meeting downstairs.
Yeah, we'll have to watch it later. Okay, so any commissioner comments?
What can we do about this?
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at me. I mean, I guess just thinking about it, and the regulations that Steve referenced that are really covered by this, go through them. That the Chapter 137 is a part of the town code that's enforceable by the harbor master and the harbor master's designees. Fortunately, it doesn't necessarily include the Conservation Commission at this point. And the other regulation, 32, is a Board of Health regulation. So those are a little too different. Obviously, if there's a concern about discharge into the open water that would come into land under the ocean in that area, to me, I think the easy tack with this, I don't want to make it sound like we're slow playing it or doing something, is to simply send something to the boat basin that says this concern has been raised to us. We're interested as it impacts, our water body and the land under the ocean. Could you please detail to us how you handle pump outs and things to us, and just get information from them on what they're doing and what systems they have in place to do it. Is probably the simplest way to at least start that discussion with them to make sure that their facilities are adequate or not, or to figure out what we're dealing with. Because right now, I can tell you, Steve's reports that something is going on when you talk to other people involved. Obviously, we're pumping out lots of things and things are going on. I think the simple way is just to ask for that information to come in and vet it yourself and have the ability to ask questions about what's happening.
So could we ask for a representative to come in so we could ask them questions like, what the pumps can handle, what sort of volumes?
Absolutely. I mean,
that sort of thing?
I think that would be kind of included in any sort of written request that comes in that says, please send it in, and if we could set a date for you to come in and discuss this, we'd appreciate it, and then we can follow up as we deem necessary or see fit to go from there. Because I think right now, part of the issue is there's a very select group of people that knows exactly what's going on, and everyone else is kind of playing with information that's bits and pieces from here and there. So probably the easiest way to go to the source and say, tell us exactly what you're doing.
What is your protocol?
Yeah.
Do you hand to the boat
So,
owners?
So do you need a motion?
Well, I think just based on that, we have 2 weeks of time that maybe in the next packet, we'll add it as an agenda item so we can actually vote to take action on it because it's not a formal enforcement.
Great.
We'll just detail it and we'll draft some sort of letter that goes with that, and you guys can make a motion, and then we'll make Andy sign it as the chair. So,
make me sign it.
Congratulations. So, follow up on
Perfect.
saying, I'm going to miss
Sounds
this
great.
meeting. I know what's going to happen.
Oh,
But I do think it's good, and I agree with Steve that
Yeah.
it's stuff like this that the board we probably should have been paying more attention to a lot of these situations for a lot longer than we should have for things that are impacting our waterways and surface water bodies for what's going on and making sure that things are adequately being done. That we don't have necessarily a direct regulation that speaks to it, but our regulations kind of require it to take place.
right.
It's one of those tricky ones where it's land over the ocean and it's Board of Health and code issues, but really it is a Concom issue as well for.
Well, we're spending so much time on fertilizers and septic systems. It just seems ironic if we're not
Well,
dealing with that. So, this is good. Okay.
Is that something we can address when we look at our regulations?
certainly, I mean, I think before we tried to draft regulation for something like that, I'd like to get some more information on what we're dealing with
Yeah.
and how best to review things like this. I mean, because there are other pump out facilities as well. I mean, there's Old North Wharf has their own facilities. The town pier has their own facilities. And to know exactly what it's doing, I mean, just from my previous work, I mean, the town spends a lot of time doing boat-to-boat pump outs with a pump out vessel. That getting some of that information would be valuable to know as well, just to know kind of what gallonage we're looking at, volume, what's happening to that, and how that's impacting what we're doing. So
I didn't even think there was North Wharf has its own station too for that.
I do not. I don't know.
Oh, I thought they did.
That's a question that I have to look at their licensing for. I don't believe they do.
It doesn't seem like it done anything on those piers.
But they may have to go or get pump outs from somewhere else. I mean, there's boats that are there, so
Yeah.
they got to do something with their tanks.
Okay.
I have a few comments.
Sure.
Sorry. Jeff, this one's more for you. Can you check, I think it's 246 Pulpus, and I've asked you to go out there before, that previously had a tennis court, but now it's like a garage thing.
Yes.
'Cause it's messy
Yep.
over there.
No, I am on them. I've actually tried to make it about once every 3 weeks out to that site.
Because with sites like that, can it be you have to stop working until you're back into compliance? Like, can
Oh,
we
yeah.
get some sort of contingent there so there's actually some incentive to keep it in compliance for these?
Yes. So I'll set up another time to go out there. Last time I visited the site was right before Christmas. So
And my other comment, and I think I meant to mention this last time and forgot, it references the Pond Coalition's report. And I know they were measuring CO2 release essentially, which can represent multiple things. But I was also wondering, and I think this is something we should be concerned about, was are they measuring methane? And what sort of methane are we getting released from a swampy area with this digestion? Just because methane's a lot more potent of a greenhouse gas, and it's something that maybe we should be looking at if they're measuring CO2
I
already.
don't know, the thing about the CO2 that I wasn't sure about is they were using that as a measure of invertebrate.
Right.
But that, I mean, we were more interested in what kind of invertebrates were there. I mean, it could be strictly all aerobic bacteria.
Exactly, and what sort of, it's some sort of digestion or like decomposition. I feel like the
Decomposition,
CO2 is representing, and there's
Right.
probably a significant amount of methane as well in that situation because it's waterlogged.
So what do you do with that information?
Well,
Or what do you, or
it
what
might make
would
you
be-
reevaluate large-scale projects like this if they're releasing tons of methane.
Would the project as permitted potentially increase those levels of methane?
It could if you're removing the plant material, and then it's like essentially releasing the gas that would have been trapped in the like wet environment. Essentially swampy areas that would trap that sort of gas.
How much mechanical removal was there on that?
3 acres.
Was it?
It
No, I
wasn't-
mean, I know there was a treatment area, but how much?
They didn't
actual-
do
They
it
didn't
down
remove
into
any
ground
anything.
at all. They just removed the top.
Full,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah,
Full
they just
cutting
left
and-
all the,
Yeah, right.
which, I think was something we would have encouraged, to not have that level of disturbance of
Right,
digging
that's
all that
what I
stuff
mean,
up.
like, was there that much subsurface disturbance, really? I mean, they're driving the marsh mats real, right?
Right.
You know, but as far as, any kind of digging out, I don't know.
Well, it's natural decay, it is going to release methane.
Right, so,
I'm not sure that that's a huge issue. I think it is more of an issue with what's happening to the microfauna.
yeah.
I'd be more concerned about getting a baseline at this point, that's the thing. Use as your baseline for, I see your point, I just wanted the interpretation.
It's not easy enough to measure.
Yeah, we never really got a micro,
No, not really, not actual down to a species or even a general group of arthropods.
There's going to be cellular respiration happening down there, no matter what, releasing CO2. So, my third thing is, I was just wondering if we were throwing around dates for that in-between meeting to discuss the stormwater management and all these other things.
Yeah, I think we were shooting for end of February, beginning of March.
Okay.
School break.
yeah.
We already
I think
have a
after.
meeting on school break.
I won't be here for that one.
We could go, we want to go the in-between week in March then? Everyone around for that?
It's like March 11th, I think.
Be something in there.
Yeah, that's fine. We're gonna be gone. Can I send an email to you at the place?
Well, why don't, I'll send everyone an email tomorrow with potential dates.
Yeah.
And you guys can send back which one's first, and we'll just kind of take a consensus.
Okay.
We're gonna get together to discuss the SPPF
Yes.
report as well.
Yep.
Because that had some interesting,
Yeah, that's getting scheduled as well. We just ended up changing reviewers, and we've kind of re-engaged someone at the Woods Hole Institute to give us a third-party review on it that hasn't been involved with the project. And they are sending back a proposed timeline for how long they believe the review is going to take, knowing that it's in a hurry. But I also said to them that I didn't want it to be rushed.
In a hurry.
Don't want it to go, we have it, it'd be great.
Can I quickly just ask when that's gonna be released to the public? SPPS monitoring?
Oh, I can email it to you tomorrow.
So I emailed you a couple weeks ago and it hasn't
sorry.
been on the website. I know Deanne's been looking for it. None of us have been able to.
Yeah, I'll send it out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you send it out to us, we'll just miss it.
I did send it out. Yeah. Sorry, it just got kind of cut across. So I'll make sure it's up there tomorrow.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought we had put it up.
We'll want some time to have our.
Yes. Yep, and we also just got from them their underwater monitoring results.
Oh,
They go
really?
with it as well, so I'll send that out as well. But I'll make sure that's up. Sorry, I just missed it.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to
No
make sure
problem.
there's enough time.
Well, we'll make sure when it gets scheduled that everyone is
Okay.
comfortable with the time to look at it and review and then get back in front of
Great. Thank you.
everyone.
Okay.
Can you email it to me, because it's generally.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Okay, so, seeing that we don't have any more comments, administrative staff, anything, great. Then, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second.
All in favor, aye.
See, I do have some use.